right. So welcome. Thanks for joining today. The purpose of our time together is to go over the American Psychological Association's Council of Representatives. I am currently serving as SCRA's representative to council through 2023. So today we're going to talk through a couple of things. If I can advance my slide. We're going to talk through the mission and role of council. We'll talk through how it's structured, what a representative does on council, what the processes of council look like, the various topics that are addressed by APA council, and then finally, how you can get involved in APA's business. So the American Psychological Association's Council of Representatives, or what I'll refer to as council to be much briefer, is the legislative body of the APA. They have the power and authority over all of the affairs and funds of the association. And through this way, they speak for APA members, as well as APA's affiliate members, on matters that advance psychology in a number of different areas, as a science, as a profession, as a means of promoting health, education, and human welfare. And council is a very large body. It is made up of 183 members as of 2022. We added a number of members in the last year. And most of those seats are held by people who are elected by their division or their association. So we have all of the divisions of the APA have a representative, at least one representative on council. And then the state, provincial, and territorial associations also have at least one member who is elected to council. However, some divisions and some associations have more than one member on council, which is why it's so important if you're a member of the APA that you participate in the apportionment vote, because every year you get to distribute 10 votes to divisions or state, provincial, territorial associations, and you get help to decide how many seats these divisions and associations have on council. And you can see there is a breakdown. So essentially divisions that get more votes allocated to them end up having more seats on council. So we have some divisions that will have 3 or 4 seats on council. Historically, I believe community psychology has only had 1 seat on council. Only members of the APA get to vote for who represents them on council, and also gets to decide how their votes are distributed. So not all members of SCRA actually get to vote for who is their representative on council. Only folks who are both members of the APA and the member of SCRA get to vote. The Ethnic Minority Psychological Associations recently gained seats on council as well if they choose to be voting members, and there have certainly been some ethnic minority psychological associations who have declined to have a voting member on council and instead are observers. And then of course there is also the board of directors, who is made up somewhat of some APA council members, but they're also elected officers. There are members at large who are elected, as well as a representative from APAGS, the American Psychological Association, Graduate Student Association, right? APAGS. And then there is a leadership team who guides council in their business as well. And so it's called the Council Leadership Team, or CLT for short. And both the chair and chair-elect of CLT are part of the board of directors, and there's also public membership as well. Okay. So what does a representative do on council? Again, they're elected by their member of their division or their state association. They serve a term of 3 years at a time, and very recently term limits were enacted as well. So a sole person can serve up to 2 terms on APA council, or a total of 6 years over the course of their career. And when someone is elected to council, while they are representing their division and their division's interests, their fiduciary responsibility is ultimately to the APA. And so the decisions that they make and the votes that they take are ultimately are supposed to be in the best interest of APA as an organization. Council itself meets twice a year. Lately, those meetings have been virtual or in hybrid format, and I think that hybrid format will likely continue into the future. Council typically meets every February in DC, and then in August, wherever the APA annual meeting is held. So in this year, it'll be in Minnesota in August. And there's an agenda that is set by council leadership, and then a briefing book, a very unwieldy book that's almost 1,000 pages long usually, is sent out to representatives about 2 weeks in advance. And so the main work of council happens just in those couple of week time periods throughout the year. But there's lots of work that happens in between in caucuses and coalitions and boards and committees. There's task forces, working groups, lots of folks that are involved in drafting new business items that are then considered by council at these meetings. Here are the caucuses that make up council. Every representative is able to join whatever caucuses they are interested in joining. Some of these caucuses require members to pay dues to them. Others are simply that folks are able to join. And the caucuses do a lot of work to present new business to council, and they also do a good deal of work in championing different causes or pieces of business that are moving through council. So as SCRA's representative to council, I have served on a number of these different caucuses over time and continue to be involved in them. And they've been responsible for moving forward a number of very important pieces of legislation. One of the way that business kind of starts out in council is that it starts as a new business item, which a lot of you are probably familiar with from other organizations that you've done work with. And anyone is able to propose new business to council. There's a form that folks fill out, and on that form, people have to indicate the title of the new business item that they're hoping to move, who the movers are and who they represent, what divisions or associations, what the issue is, any sort of estimated costs or staff resources that are needed to carry that new business item forward. And then of course they have to document the needs and supporting data for whatever issue they're moving forward. And then they have to talk about the impact that has on diverse groups and marginalized groups throughout the association, what the main motion is, what the business item is, any expected outcomes or products that come from that new business item, and then how that fits with APA's strategic priorities. Oftentimes when these new business items are moved forward, then there are co-signers that will join on board saying that they would definitely vote for this new business item. And co-signers are typically representatives, but they're oftentimes not limited to simply representatives. There have been lots of movers who have brought forward new business and have sought folks to co-sign from across the association. So you may sometimes see these come across the listserv asking folks to weigh in and to co-sign. Typically, new business does not move quickly within the association, though. There are certainly opportunities for it to move more quickly than others, but typically it's quite a long process. So new business is always a form is provided to the agenda planning group at the end of every council period, so after the biannual meeting. And then it's assigned to lead boards within the APA who are set to review it and to send it out to different divisions and interest groups accordingly. And then it has to be referred to others for review within a 12-month period, so within a year, and brought back to council within 18 months. We have a lot of good examples of new business that has moved forward much more quickly within the association, but this is the typical time period that it takes in order for new policies to move forward within the APA. So it's not a fast-moving body, it's very slow and deliberate in the time that it takes. The topics that are addressed by council typically fall within APA's 4 directorates. And so that's the education, issues involving education, issues involving the practice of psychology, psychology as a science, and then psychology as it impacts the public interest. And so these are some examples of recent business that has come before council since I've been serving, to give you an idea of the different items that we tackle. A lot of the things that council tackles are honestly very guild focused, and they're largely internal. So council will vote on how it functions and how its operations go, and also change how it operates over time in order to hopefully be more effective so that new business doesn't take so long to move forward. There'll also be items that impact how APA functions. And so those might include things like bylaws amendments. Those are things that ultimately go to all APA membership to vote on if they're passed by council, or changes to APA policies that largely impact the membership. So you all might remember earlier this year, one of the big things that council passed was a ban the box. So not asking people about their previous history with incarceration in order to change that APA policy. There'll also be reports that tend to be very internally focused that council will vote to accept a report that can then turn into external focus once APA does something with that report and some guidance comes out of it, or to form task force, working groups, right? Those are sort of very largely internal guild focused aspects of the organization. There are other pieces that APA Council works on that have much broader external implications as well. And you see a lot of these kind of announced by me as they come forward into impacting the work that the APA does. So the APA will pass guidelines for practice, for research, for education, that then of course are guidelines that their members need to follow, but then certainly impact the public at large. APA also passes resolutions and statements that then focus the work of the organization, but also can lead to the APA weighing in on legislation that's happening, on sharing its impact on the Hill. All of these resolutions and statements that come from council set the stage for that. So recently, for example, you probably heard about what's happening with the Supreme Court, a leak on their draft on Roe versus Wade. The APA was expecting there to be further attacks on reproductive justice. And so in the past year, there were a group of folks within the APA that drafted a new business item focused on reproductive justice that was ultimately passed by council. That can then lead to the APA weighing in and sharing drafting amicus briefs or joining in to support lawsuits in that space. And then of course, there are also work that the APA does that lends support for other organizations' work or lends agreement in that way. So some business items move forward very quickly when we kind of get around some of the rules and procedures that are in place, but others do take a very long time, upwards of 2 years to move through all of the constituencies of the APA. Right. So how can you get involved in the work that our division does with council? One of the biggest ways is to respond to calls for information that come from me or whoever is serving as our division's representative to council. So that means reading and responding to any council updates that are sent out, commenting on items that are shared through the SCRA listserv, as well as applying to serve on APA committees. A lot of times there are opportunities for SCRA members to raise their voices, to be able to comment on new business items that are making their way through council. And I try my best to share those out with you. And I'm sure whoever is serving as SCRA's representative to council tries to do the same. So paying attention to those emails so that you can weigh in is very important. And then certainly there are other much more proactive ways that you can serve as serve the APA and impact what's happening at the APA. So that is by contacting your rep to council with ideas and concerns. The ideas that you bring forward can lead to new business items that move through the APA. So it's really important to be raising your ideas in these fashions, because that's how business gets done. And then finally, you can certainly also serve. So you can run for election and serve as our division's rep to council. It's a very important role that we play. To learn more, you can go to APA's website. So it's apa.org/about/governance/council. Or you can certainly contact me through 2023. I will be serving. And you can always find out who is SCRA's rep to council on our SCRA website as well, so that you can be contacting them too. Hopefully that's where you found this video. So let me pause there and take any questions.
Well, that was really good, Sarah. I mean, I learned a lot. I'm realizing I should know more,